Offerings. It began with the smell. A rancid stench, thick and putrid, seeped into every crevice of my home, saturating the walls, clinging to my skin. At first I blamed the drains, then the rats, then the neighbors. But none of these things explained the way the walls grew damp despite the dry season, nor the way the mirrors clouded over with greasy smudges shaped like grasping fingers, nor the way my breath turned visible in the dead of night, though the air was warm. Then came the sounds. Quiet at first, barely noticeable. The occasional smacking, the gulp of something swallowing. The first time I heard it, I convinced myself I was just hearing things. The second time, I jolted awake, heart pounding, the sound so close it felt as though something crouched beside me. The noise was coming from the shrine. Tucked in the corner of my home, my father's shrine had remained undisturbed since his passing. The incense had long since burned away, the offerings left untouched. That night I approached with trembling hands, lifting the bowl of rice I had placed in front of his photograph. The bowl was empty. The next morning, I watched the shrine closely. I prepared a fresh offering, steamed rice, a slice of roasted pork, a cup of warm tea. Then I waited. The sun set. The house darkened. A thick, unnatural silence settled over the room. And then, the food began to vanish. Not all at once. Slowly, bite by bite. My breath caught in my throat. A cold sweat dripped down my back. And then I saw it. A shape barely visible in the dim light. Thin, emaciated, its limbs impossibly long, its fingers curled like talons. The face, if it could be called that, was horrific, the mouth an enormous gash that revealed jagged teeth. I could not move. The creature's head snapped toward me, its sunken eyes gleaming with hunger. It shuddered, convulsed, then dragged itself forward with jerking, unnatural motions, its breath reeking of bile and decay. "You did not give enough," it rasped. The voice was my father's. My body locked in place. I could not run, could not scream. The thing lunged, its mouth stretched wider, 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 a flash of teeth, a searing pain. Then nothing. The thing in the woods. Jacob had always laughed off the old stories. Skinwalkers, creatures that were able to shapeshift. Just myths, he thought, until that night. He went camping deep in the Arizona wilderness, setting up by a dry riverbed. The air was eerily still, no wind, no insects, just silence. As the sun set, he felt uneasy, like something was watching him. Hours later, while tending the fire, he stepped away to relieve himself near the tree line. He glanced up, and his stomach dropped. Eyes, a pair of glowing, animal-like eyes, watched him from the dark. A chill ran through him. He stumbled back toward camp, heart pounding. But when he returned, he froze. Someone was sitting by his fire. It was him. Same jacket, same boots, same face. The thing turned, and its mouth stretched into an inhuman grin. Jacob didn't wait. He bolted to his truck, but before he reached it, a voice, his own voice, called from behind him. "Where are you going?" He slammed the door as the thing stalked closer, moving in jerky, unnatural motions. Jacob didn't look back. He just drove. He never camped alone again. The hunger in the pines. Ethan had always loved the isolation of the northern woods, but in winter the silence wasn't peaceful. It was suffocating. On the third night of his hunting trip, the forest felt wrong. No wind, no animals, just an empty, heavy stillness. As he gathered firewood, a foul stench hit him. Rotting meat. Then he saw them. Deep footprints in the snow, too large to be human, clawed at the tips. Something was out there. That night he bolted the cabin door and kept his rifle close. At midnight the sound came, slow, dragging footsteps circling the cabin, then scratching at the walls. Ethan held his breath. A low, rattling growl echoed from outside, followed by a voice, thin, rasping. "Hungry!" The thing outside sniffed the air. A long silence. Then bang! The doorframe shuddered as something massive slammed against it. Ethan didn't move, didn't breathe. Hours passed before dawn arrived. When he finally dared to look outside, the snow was disturbed by long, deep claw marks. The trees stood silent, watching, but he knew it wasn't gone. It was waiting. The smiling woman. And Rio had always taken the last train home from work. It was late, nearly empty, and quiet. A perfect time to relax before bed. One night, as the train pulled into his station, he noticed someone standing near the exit. A woman in a tattered white dress. Her long black hair covered most of her face, but what he could see sent a chill down his spine. Her mouth was stretched into an unnaturally wide smile. She didn't move as he stepped onto the platform. She just stood there grinning. Trying to ignore her, Rio hurried toward the stairs. But as he reached the exit, a cold shiver ran through him. Footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. He turned his head slightly. The woman was following him. Her body stiff, her smile unchanging. He quickened his pace, heart pounding. At the top of the stairs, he glanced back. She was closer. Too close. Her head tilted sharply, her smile widening, stretching beyond what was humanly possible. "Do you think I'm pretty?" she whispered. Rio ran. When he reached his apartment, he locked the door, his breath ragged. For a moment, there was silence. Then, a knock at the door. He never took the last train again. The Yurei of Kageyama Forest. In a small village nestled at the foot of the Kageyama Mountains, there was an old legend that everyone knew but never spoke about. It was said that on the nights when the moon was full, the spirit of a Yurei, a restless ghost, roamed the forest, searching for those who dared to venture too deep into its heart. Tetsuya, a curious young man, had heard the stories growing up. He dismissed them as nothing more than tales to frighten children. But when his childhood friend Haruki disappeared during a camping trip, Tetsuya's skepticism began to fade. The villagers whispered that Haruki had been taken by the Yurei of Kageyama, but Tetsuya couldn't bring himself to believe it until he ventured into the forest himself. One evening, armed with a flashlight and a sense of determination, he made his way into the dark, dense trees. The air grew colder as he walked, the faint sound of rustling leaves filling the silence. But as he ventured deeper, the forest grew eerily still. No birds, no wind, just an oppressive silence that felt suffocating. Then he saw it, a pale figure standing among the trees, its body twisted, its face a hollow, featureless mask of white. The Yurei, with long black hair that hung like curtains over its shoulders, stood motionless, staring at him with eyes that seemed to pierce through him, though it had no eyes. Tetsuya froze, his breath caught in his throat. The Yurei began to move, gliding toward him with unnatural grace, its feet not touching the ground. The closer it came, the colder the air grew, until he could see his breath in the air. "Why have you come?" A voice, dry and cracking, filled his mind. He tried to run, but his legs wouldn't move. The Yurei whispered again, its voice a sickening melody of sorrow and rage. "You will never leave. You are part of this forest now." In an instant, Tetsuya's vision blurred, and the world around him seemed to shift. He could no longer see the forest, only a desolate, mist-covered wasteland. His feet were rooted to the ground, his body stiff. And then, the final horror. He realized he wasn't alone. Around him, hundreds of faces, pale and twisted, just like the Yurei's, watched him with hollow eyes, their mouths open in silent screams. The Yurei reached out, its icy fingers brushing his cheek. The last thing he felt was a chill that sank deep into his soul. The villagers say that sometimes on quiet nights, you can hear the soft whisper of a voice carried on the wind through Kageyama Forest. "Come, join us." Tetsuya was never seen again, and the Yurei still wanders the forest, waiting for its next victim.